As the leader of the free world, it's the duty of the American president to protect society's most vulnerable minorities. Women, black people, and billionaire pedophiles. But with the gender wage gap starting to close and Black Panther finally ending racism for good, we finally turn our attention to the one true oppressed minority left. Gamers. This is why I paid Jack the intern, who has an actual history degree, to research the gamer merits of each president from the invention of video games to the modern day. Welcome to the Gamer President's Tier List. Originally created in 1947 by scientists in New Jersey, the first video game was called a cathode ray tube amusement device, which was made under Harry Solid Snake Truman. This is a bit of a shame because we all know FDR would have loved Wolfenstein. Also, for a bit of fun, we're going to be guessing each president's favorite game. Although Truman likely never played a video game, dying less than a month after Pong was released, he went a long way to shape the gamer culture of today. Not only is nuking Japan considered a pro-gamer move, but it also shaped Japan into the modern gamer-obsessed nation it eventually became. This puts Truman firmly in A tier. All things considered, he probably would have liked Fallout. The next president on our list is Dwight Donkey Kong Eisenhower. As crazy as it might sound, Eisenhower might have done more for video games than most presidents on this list. Public tech funding scores some pretty big points when it comes to video game friendliness, and this guy founded NASA. He also passed the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Without which we never would have gotten the greatest black video game character of all time. Big Smoke. Arguably his greatest contribution to the international gaming community was the passing of the National Defense Education Act. Some historians contribute this bill with the invention of the personal computer, meaning PC gaming as we know it today may not have existed without him. Eisenhower spent a lot of his presidency conducting military coups in Iran and Guatemala, and even threatened Manchuria with a nuclear bombardment during the Korean War. As Supreme Commander of the Allies, Eisenhower would have cleaned the fuck up in Hearts of Iron. Easy S tier. The next president is John Fortnite Kennedy, a man most famous for his appearance in Call of Duty Black Ops. Although in office during a tumultuous time for the country, Kennedy would be a primary figure in de-escalating the hottest points of the Cold War, saving gamerkind from possible extinction. President Kennedy also initiated the Apollo program, which somehow put a man on the moon with 4 kilobytes of RAM. Although this cost roughly $150,000 at the time, this is seen as a reasonable price point in a post-AI world. Kennedy would of course get tragically one-tapped by the most bullshit shot you'll ever see, which pushes him even further up the scale. A tier. Considering his family history, he probably would have liked Mafia. Our next president has a bit of a bewildering legacy. As the VP and eventual successor to JFK, the man who oversaw the Cuban Mogging Crisis, Lyndon Bowser Johnson had some large shoes to fill. With this in mind, he went on to pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and 68, introduce Medicaid and Medicare, and reprioritize the Apollo program, all of them very pro-gamer initiatives. He also said the N-word a lot and whipped his dick out in public. Oh yeah, that's a gamer alright. S tier. He probably would have liked Uma Musume, Pretty Derby. We now come to President Richard Master Chief Nixon. Most famous for his appearances on the critically acclaimed show Futurama, President Nixon is the only president in US history that stepped down from office. Not only did his famous Watergate scandal go on to inspire Gamergate, but losing his presidency over an insta-fail stealth mission might just be the most gamer thing on this list. Nixon's presidency would also oversee some of the bloodiest periods of the Vietnam War, which would inspire George Lucas to make Star Wars only a few years later. Without Nixon, we wouldn't have Battlefront 2, The Force Unleashed, or the countless other Star Wars projects that are currently stuck in development hell. With this in mind, the excessive use of napalm and Agent Orange also inspired Caleb from Elden Ring, so we have to bump him down to B tier. Fuck Caleb. He'd probably play Among Us and take it way too seriously. There isn't much to say about President Ford because his most famous decision was just pardoning the last guy. We do have to give him points for being born Leslie Lynch King Jr. which is probably his parents making a reference to World of Warcraft. Ford wasn't elected for president or vice president, but the world got him anyway. Truly the Concord of presidents. D tier. Next up is Jimmy Carter, the inspiration for Jimmy Hopkins from Bully.
I've always been a politician at heart.
Creating the Departments of Energy and Education resulted in a population boom for the gamer community that we're still observing to this day. His work with Habitat for Humanity also ensured that thousands of gamers had a roof over their head. He also normalized relations with China, which still houses some of the most oppressed gamers on Earth today. Carter sits in high B tier. This guy was a farmer and spent his whole life building houses. He would have built some pretty cool shit on Valheim. We now get to Ronald Reagan, who would have been an absolute fucking warlord if he played on a Rust server today. The guy went all in on trickle-down economics, gutted labor unions, and secretly sold weapons to Iran to fund anti-communist rebels in South America. This man was a fucking Kojima character. Reagan would have been a hardcore extraction shooter guy for sure. An environment where the weak die and the morally flexible thrive. With this said, not even Nancy the Goat Reagan could get him more excited than playing Call of Duty Cold War. Considering his weirdly high number of appearances in games, we gotta put him in A tier. Next in office was George Bush Sr. Georgie B quite famously promised not to increase taxes before going on to increase taxes. To be fair, we've all done the same shit on Roller Coaster Tycoon. Bush's focus on maintaining the NATO alliance also has some pretty big guild leader vibes. And Operation Desert Storm has been the setting of dozens of games ever since. Since Bush headed the CIA and ordered the invasion of Panama, he would have fucking loved Black Ops 2. B tier. Taking over from Bush 1 was Bill Clinton, the first black president. Bill Clinton was much more involved in video game policy than any of his predecessors. Both Bill and Hillary Clinton criticized video games for increasing the level of violence among American youth, even suggesting they contributed to mass shootings. America's ESRB rating system was also created under Clinton, with the government telling the industry that they can either regulate themselves or be regulated. I'd hit him with the D tier, but he was famously thanked at the 2022 Game Awards.
I want to thank everybody and say that I think I want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody.
Who was that guy?
Just for this, we gotta put him in C tier. Coming in next is George Bush II, Going Commando. Bush's term saw the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, the passing of the Patriot Act, and the end to privacy for the rest of time. Bush had an interesting stance on video games because, much like his predecessors, he also seemed to believe they were glorifying violence and it contributed to mass shootings. However, during his term, the US government created a video game to help bolster its recruitment efforts. America's Army was a free-to-play game developed and published by the US Army and had objectives such as crossing a bridge and securing an oil pipeline. To unlock features in the game, you'd also be taught real-life combat skills. For example, before you're able to play the medic class, you'd actually have to sit through a 10-minute virtual classroom, and at the end, you'd actually be tested on the content of the course. And the crazy thing is, it worked. 20% of incoming West Point trainees at the time had played America's Army before starting basic training. According to an MIT study in 2008, the game had positively impacted 30% of young civilians' views on the army. So here we have a president that thought video games caused mass shootings, but developed a video game as a recruitment tool. Hey man, as long as they're shooting Iraqis, I guess. It would make sense to put him in D tier for trying to use the medium in this way, especially for one war that started under false pretenses and another that took 20 years to achieve nothing. With this said, apparently America's Army was actually pretty good, with one reviewer at the time calling it, quote, the best misappropriation of tax dollars ever. Alright George, you get to be in B tier. His favorite title would have been that Bush shootout flash game for sure. We now get to Obama, who was arguably the first president to have a rational stance on video games. On the whole video games cause violence debate, Obama stated, quote, "Congress should fund research on the effects of violent video games. We don't benefit from ignorance." It's sad that the bar is set so low, but we'll take what we can get. Obama also made an appearance in Madden 11, congratulating the player after winning the Super Bowl. But even before that, he appeared on billboards in Burnout Paradise, urging players to vote in the 2008 election. Not only this, but Obama is the first actual confirmed president to have played a video game. In 2011, he was filmed buying Just Dance 3 and stated that his daughters always beat him in other dancing games. He was also gifted The Witcher 2 by the Prime Minister of Poland, so we know for sure that he owns a video game. Obama was also a strong supporter of digital literacy in schools, pushed for expanded broadband access, and wanted a larger focus on computer science in education. All things considered, I think we can justify putting him in S tier. Following Obama is Donald Junkrat Trump. Unfortunately, Donnie T regresses a bit when it comes to gamer rights, linking video games to the El Paso shooting in 2019. With this said, his administration's White House Twitter account features video games frequently. Examples include using Halo to boost ICE recruitment and Wii Bowling to make Iran war propaganda. With this said, we also have to recognize that Trump has actually released a number of video games over his career. This includes multiple entries in Trump Castle, a gambling video game series that first released in the late 80s. There's also 2002's Donald Trump's Real Estate Tycoon, in which he actually voiced himself.
New York needs more offices. You have to change 20 condos into offices in 73 months to complete this final mission. Start buying condos and convert the condos into offices by renovating the building. This will take some time and be expensive, but as a good real estate tycoon, you know where to earn the money you need.
Going to Metacritic, the critic scores rated the game 7 out of 10. There's only one user review on the site who wrote perhaps the most 2017 review of all time, quote, "Trump will make video games great again, just as he's doing with America. Better than any modern video game out there. This game deserves a sequel more than Battlefront. 10 out of 10. Trump falls into the George Bush Jr. category of not really respecting video games, while somehow contributing a lot to making them. B tier seems like a fair ranking. As for his favorite game, it's gotta be a toss-up between SimCity and Tropico. For our last stop, we get to Joe Revolver Ocelot Biden. Perhaps Biden's most famous gamer moment was the headline that he called video game developers, quote, "little creeps." This was taken way out of context, and he was actually calling a room full of Silicon Valley leaders, including one game designer, quote, "arrogant little creeps." Honestly, fair. I dare you to pick one random news article about a tech leader lately and try not to come to the same conclusion. Like Obama, he also used video games during his election campaign, using a dedicated Animal Crossing island to let potential voters meet a virtual Joe Biden. More importantly, in 2013, he actually came out with the most rational stance on video games than any president in history.
There is no hard data as to whether or not these excessively violent video games, in fact, cause people to engage in behavior that is antisocial, including using guns. There is one study done, I think it was, the American Academy of Pediatrics. They said if you watch 3 to 6 hours, kids watching 3 to 6 hours of video games, a lot of kids do that, can lead to aggressive behavior. They didn't make the next connection saying that leads to violent behavior. But there's no studies done. So I recommended to the president that we do significant research. Let CDC, let the National Institute of Health, let these people go out and look at the pathology that's behind this, if there is a pathology related to gun violence. We shouldn't be afraid of the facts.
But perhaps the most important metric of all, something we've lacked from every other president in history, we have real, authentic proof that Joe Biden has played a video game. Here is an honest-to-God picture of Biden playing Mario Kart with his granddaughter while in office. Not only this, but his granddaughter confirmed on Instagram that he won. My man can barely string 2 words together, but he is a sniper with the green shells. With all of this considered, it shouldn't surprise anyone that Biden gets to sit in S tier. As for his favorite game, Biden would probably enjoy Kingdom Come Deliverance to remind him of his childhood. So here's our final tier list of gamer presidents. Subscribe for more fun videos such as the President's Play Arc Raiders and Omni-Man Explains Progressive Income Taxes. Until next time, have a fucking good one.